So thank you for your time, and thank you
Yeah.
for chatting with DC Comics News. It's a pleasure, and we're super excited to talk to you.
Well, I'm super excited to talk to you. This is a blast.
So let's talk about everything DC. Well, majority of things DC related. For our fans out there, would you mind giving us a brief bio on yourself, your career, where you came from, and everything encompassing?
God, that's a huge question.
High level,
Let's see.
if you like.
Yeah, right. So I mean, the shortest way to the through line is I'm an actor who likes to work on stuff that makes me excited. So that means that I've done everything from theater to stunt work to daytime TV soap operas to Western feature films. I stumbled my way into voiceover, discovered it was like the most fun, creative thing I'd done in ages. I'm starting to get back into on camera work now. So I've done a little bit of a lot of things. I live in Los Angeles now. I lived in New York for a few years right out of university. During that time, I went to Scotland and did a show, and I lived in Taiwan and I did a stunt show, and I lived in England for a little while and played around in theater, and all of it kept bringing me back to what's the next cool thing to go explore playing with. Like I remember when I got to audition for the TV show Heroes, I was that kid that was just like, you like, but this show is awesome, and Jeff Loeb is one of the writers, and I've got like 7 of his graphic novels on my shelf, and I just read Hush, and I'm like, I get the job, and I'm in the makeup room, and the woman, she's like, wait, you actually like this stuff? And I was like, yeah.
Yes, I
So,
do.
so I mean, I come from a big family. I have a lot of brothers. I was always, running around and falling down and fighting with swords and sticks. And so, as I became an adult and I found out that that was something that people would go, that is a skill that you have. And then eventually it would be a skill that people would pay me for. I was like, oh, all right, I'll just keep doing that a little bit at a time and see what happens. So,
It's not so much a job anymore, is it? When you love something like that and you're passionate about it, it's great.
I had a really interesting experience where I was in a pretty bad motorcycle accident a couple of years ago, and it made it really hard for me to be able to work for a couple of years. And when I came back after physical therapy and rehab and stuff, I was faced with kind of like starting my career up again, and it was just slow going to start again. And that's kind of when my life took a turn into the fitness world. I got, like a lot of people, I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid and got really obsessed for a while. And I was like, maybe this is what I should do now. I love this. And I did, and I loved it. And I spent a couple years, I was like, yeah, let me teach CrossFit and let me teach yoga and let me work with people, and I did love it. I loved it. But I didn't love it the way I loved being an actor. And so realizing that like I was happy and I'm good at this and I love this, and I'm still not as happy as I was when I was like starving and counting the number of apples that I had left to get to the end of the week, when I was like legit starving as an actor. I was like, okay, all right, then that's what I need to do. And that's kind of what brought me back full force. And I'm really grateful that I got to have that experience of like, let me pursue something else I do love and I am good at, and realize that this is where I was always supposed to be. And I knew that when I was a kid, and I found it again, and I was like, okay, all right. I was right when I was 4. Just believe
it,
myself.
it's funny when we're 4 or 5, we want to be policemen, firemen, or we want to be everything else. We have these dreams, and it's absolutely amazing. There's a lot of people out there that have dreams that don't achieve them or don't pursue them for whatever reason. But that's amazing that you can execute your passion and what you love on a daily basis. And I appreciate that, because everything I do for my websites is all about my passion and my love for pop culture. So in that regard, I totally get it.
Love it.
In regards to the DC universe, I think now is a really it's a really popular time for DC. We've got the DC TV universe. We've got the film universe with Wonder Woman coming out, the film. We've got Justice League later in the year. We've also got a big focus on just pop culture in general. I think now it's more popular now than what it's ever been. So, what's it like for you now that you're actually part of the DC universe? You're portraying such an iconic character in Wonder Woman.
I mean, it feels like magic. It feels like the most exciting gift I've ever been given, to be able to be a part of the stories that I have read my whole life, that inspired me my whole life, that were a part of the iconography that created the way that I see the world. To get to be a part of that and actually contribute in my small way to its life outside of my own imagination, for me, is amazing. It's because I'm a fan, and to get to do it too is the coolest thing in the world. It's the coolest thing in the world.
I could see the passion in your eyes. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm a massive Batman fan. My whole ideology of my whole life is based off that character and what it stands for. And if I had the opportunity to do anything like what you're doing for Batman, I would just, yeah, I would be on cloud 9 constantly, I think.
Yeah.
So with Justice League Action, I think are we 10 or 11 episodes into season 1?
Well, you guys are lucky out there in Australia. You're ahead of us in the US.
Oh, right.
I know.
Okay, that doesn't happen very often.
I know. It's so wild. It's one of those where, like, I'm almost jealous because Australia and the UK and I think a couple of other places are a few episodes ahead of the US. But so you guys have actually seen some stuff that I haven't seen yet.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's a question I've got for you just a little bit later. Out of curiosity, how did the opportunity come up for you to portray Wonder Woman with Justice League Action?
So the thing that's really funny is it was just another audition. It was just another audition, just like any other audition that I get. I have a voice acting career. I've done a bunch of video games that I love. I've done a lot of, radio and TV and commercials and narration and stuff like that. But I had never done a cartoon before. And the really funny thing is, there are a lot of voice actors who, like, that was the reason they wanted to do it, was to be a cartoon. And for some reason I was like, I want to read books. I want to narrate documentaries. I just didn't, I wasn't that kid running around doing voices all the time. And then this came up, and let's be clear, it's not like I was saying no to cartoons. You weren't saying this to me yet. But this came up, and they sent me 3 characters, and 2 of them were villains. And I was like, all right. I was like, I got some ideas. And it was one of those days where I was like, those were good. Like, I turned in good auditions for those 2 villains. Like, I was like, I'd cast me. Those are good. But I left Wonder Woman to last. And it was a really profound experience, honestly, because she means so much to me and always has. Like, she's my iconic female character. There weren't others when I was a kid. Like, I remember when Rogue showed up because I was like, oh my gosh, there's a second one. Like, there weren't others. She was my iconic character, and I didn't know what she sounded like. I mean, I would have known how to put on the boots. I would have known how to hold the lasso, but I didn't know what she sounded like. And I was like, I can't let her down. And I had this really profound, gets me emotional just thinking about it. I had this really profound experience where I was like, well, I guess she sounds like me when I feel like Wonder Woman. I don't know what else to do other than that. And that's what worked. And that's what they liked. And when I showed up on the first day, like trying to keep my act together, because I was like, oh my God, I'm here. I can't believe they called me. They played me samples of the audition that I had sent in, and they were like, this is what we want. This energy, this style. I remember there was one line, it was from the episode Galaxy Jest, where Superman was like, wait in the jet. And I was like, wait in the jet. Yeah, right. Because this was not a world where I was going to sit around and wait by the car. No, I got work to do. But it wasn't this like choice about making an exciting choice. I was just like, that's how I feel when I feel like Wonder Woman. I'm like, wait in the jet? I don't think so. I got a job to do and I'm going to come do it with you. And the really exciting thing is, over the course of the season, slowly but surely, the writing started to reflect the energy that I brought in. And they told me, they were like, yeah, we're tweaking it a little bit for you now because of what you're bringing and what you're doing. And that combination of what has always existed, what's in the imagination of the people who are writing it and creating it, and what I get to bring from what it means to me, has been the coolest, most exciting journey. And if there is one 7-year-old girl out there watching it who's like, I like her in the same way that I felt when I watched Linda Carter, awesome.
Well, I can tell you now, my 8-year-old daughter loves Wonder Woman. So
Yeah.
I've got we've got the action figures for her. She's she loves Wonder Woman, absolutely. And I think it's amazing that the character is evolving through what you're bringing, rather than you being dictated to by the show saying you must do it in this way. And with that, and again, me having an 8-year-old daughter, I see the importance of it. I think gender diversity in pop culture and in the comic book world is so important. We have such a big focus on male lead characters and Batman and Superman and Green Lantern and everything else. But I think now for girls like my daughter that look up to female characters, Wonder Woman is getting such a big focus now through the movie. DC Comics have got DC Bombshells, where they've got the focus on, you know, these female characters. So I guess, what's your opinion on getting on DC, just everyone getting that balance right with gender diversity? What's your take on that?
I mean, I am an unabashed feminist, and so for me to see that DC cares about that is really exciting. And so every step in that direction is positive movement. There's this great quote from Sandra Day O'Connor, who is a Supreme Court justice here in the United States, who she says when people ask how many women on the court is enough, she says 9, and they seem shocked. She says, well, we've had 9 men and nobody seemed to bat an eye at that. And that's kind of how I feel about this movement. I love Batman. I love Superman. I love Green Lantern. I'm not trying to change those characters, but any shift, any movement, any space that we make for female characters to come in, to embody them, to fill in space, to flesh out those worlds, is only going to make the world better. It's going to make the art better. It's going to make the artists better. It's going to make the stories better. I have always loved that, sure, Joker is Batman's nemesis, but who's his equal? It's Catwoman.
Absolutely.
You know? And that's important. And it inspired me as a kid, and it still inspires me as an adult. And to see that continuing to shift, and to know that women are a huge part of the buying marketplace for comics, for the movies, for the television shows, is, you know, and to respect that portion of the audience, I think is really important, because we all want to see ourselves reflected. We want to see the different colors of the world reflected in the faces of the heroes that tell our stories. We want to see the genders and gender expressions reflected in the stories that move us. I love the world of comics in part because we can use it to tell so many stories that we're afraid to tell in other ways. I had a really cool experience earlier this year at a convention where I looked around and I realized, right, because like we're not the weirdos anymore.
No, we're not. No, we're quite popular now.
What we love is what's cool now. What we love is making billions of dollars at the box office. It's on television. We've got like an entire channel dedicated to DC at this point, right? Like what we love isn't weird anymore. But why we loved it is still real. And looking at the people who are at the conventions and seeing the people who connected with each other and found each other, and knowing that that feeling of feeling like an outsider and feeling different because of who you are is still validated in the world of comics. And saying, yeah, who you are is valuable because you are different, not despite it. And I think that there's something about the way that those stories are told that will always speak to the outsiders, even when the stories we love aren't outside stories anymore. And I just feel really lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Totally agree. Absolutely, and yeah, it's quite relevant now. I think, like you were saying, in the last 3 or 4 years, it's you no longer have to be a geek or in the minority to like what we like now. And yeah, I think that's absolutely amazing. I remember watching the first episode of Justice League Action, and the big focus was on the Trinity with Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And I remember Wonder Woman being just at the center of that episode. She's so charismatic, so powerful. She's a leader in her own right, and it was very hard to not notice her. She was right in the center, and I loved that about her. I guess when you go and voice a character like that in an episode, how do you put your tone of voice into the character? Do you see any of the wireframes or parts of the show beforehand with the script? How do you know to voice certain components, whether she's in action, whether she's just talking, or how does that kind of work?
So there are two kinds of scripts for animation. There's one that looks just like a regular film or television script. And so it'll have the description of the action, and it'll have, kind of, it'll sort of indicate where like big moments happen, right? And then there's the script that we get on the day that we record that's just the dialogue. It's called a dialogue script. I always bring both in. I have to bring and it's so funny because now it's even become like a joke that when I'm doing it, I'm like, right. And so because it'll say in the dialogue script, it'll go, fight sounds, or it'll say like 2 kicks and a punch or whatever. I'm like, but this is actually like the bracelets and then the lasso, right? And they're like, yeah, because I was like, because in the description it's over here. And for me, that goes back to the actor that, did theater and did black box and, runs around on a green screen stage and is like, I get to make it all up. And we also have a really talented director, really talented crew that, when it starts to go sideways or it's not big enough or it's too big, it's like, hey, we're going to help craft this thing. It's really a team effort, which is cool. And the total gift that we have on this show is that for the most part, we get to record together, which doesn't happen very often anymore. So on almost every episode, we'll have, 40 to 90% of the cast in the same room at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
It's awesome. It's so fun. And so we all feed off of each other, and that energy grows, and we can build and respond to each other, which is such a unique way to do it. The directors who can get that feeling when they're working with one person at a time, God bless them. That is so hard to do. We're so lucky that we get to play together. And the result is that I've gotten to work with some of the coolest people, and I've learned so much from them. And there's some stuff that I've learned just from watching other actors come in and just be like, and I'm like, wait, I could just be like, whatever, and see how it goes. And if you don't like it, you'll just throw it away and we'll do it again. Okay, well, let's just see how it goes then. So that's been really cool.
Do you have? That's amazing. So, in other words, the actual Justice League is there in the recording studio, actually doing it all at once. That's pretty awesome, actually.
And the best part is, if all three of us are there, they'll usually have Kevin and me and Jason, so Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman, all next to each other. It's so fun.
That's super cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a I guess a personal process or a set of rituals or anything that you go through before you go and record something as part of Wonder Woman? Is there anything that you do to kind of get into character?
That's a good question. I always want to make sure that I've been thoughtful before I throw everything away and just go play. So I make sure to reread my script when I first get there. But like by the time I've gotten to the studio, my main purpose is to connect with everybody who's there. So it looks like just hanging out, but it's really like a really deliberate, like, let me go give my Superman a big squeeze and tell Jason hi, and, you know, ask Kevin about what he's been doing, and, you know, talk to John and talk to Chris. And there's something about finding that connection and saying, no, we're people together. This isn't just funny words on a page or fighting words on a page. That seems to really make that magic click in and matter, which is cool.
That's awesome. That's super cool. With playing Wonder Woman on Justice League Action, have you come up against any big challenges as far as playing the character? And if you have, how have you overcome them? Or has it just been a smooth process, and the fact that you've loved her your whole life how has that worked out?
I mean, I've been really lucky that, fortunately, how I see the character and how the creators of our show see the character lines up really well. And so it's been very rare that we kind of bump up against, you know, things. But like anyone, I watch the show and I'm like, oh, I could have done that 932 different ways. So I'm really excited to get picked up for a second season and see how that goes.
Awesome.
The thing that's interesting is coming up against not necessarily my idea of who the character is, but other people's idea of the character, and who she is to them, and me going, okay. And right now I can either choose to make you happy, or I can choose to do what feels like integrity for me and for what I understand. So that's what I got to do. And that's been really rewarding and really empowering to just continually go, it's important to you, and that's awesome. But it's also important to me. And if I stay in integrity with what it means to me, then there's going to be a consistency there that will have a heart and a through line that will carry through, which is cool.
Right. With voicing characters, if you had the opportunity to play anybody else in the DC universe, who would you play?
I mean, I kind of gave my hand away already. Like a lot of kids, my first graphic novel was The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, right.
There's like Selena Kyle is like, she's like the dark side of Wonder. Same toughness, same brashness, same brains, but she doesn't always use those things for good, and that's fun.
She's a very interesting character. She's part of her is good, part of her she's got this underlying bad thing, and I think she holds sway over Batman quite a lot. He's very disciplined in so many ways, but when it comes to her, the dynamic is pretty special, definitely.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, there you have it. I think you're doing a great job as Wonder Woman. I think Justice League Action is an amazing show, and we love it at DC Comics News. I've got another site, darkknightnews.com, and we focus just on the Batman universe, and the guys and the girls over there on that site, they love it as well. So I remember I was at Comic Con in 2016 when everything was announced there, and the excitement there was quite profound, and it's a great show. So I just want to congratulate you on
Thanks.
what you're doing and everything that show represents. So it's awesome, and I love the fact that we get stuff first in Australia for a change.
Oh, there's a part of me that feels really jealous, and then a part of me that's like, it's about time.
We always get left second or third all the time. It's good to be in front just for once.
The kind of fun part is that for the first time ever, I'm like getting teasers from other places where I'm like, oh, is that what's coming next? Oh, I can't wait.
That's awesome, and congratulations on season 2, by the way.
Well, we haven't gotten the official pickup yet, but I'm feeling very. God, I hope so.
I'm sure it will be. The show's
But
awesome.
we'll let you know for sure if that news actually comes out. But I believe in positive thinking.
Absolutely. Positive things happen to positive people. I have to ask, with when I was looking on your site last night, all your fitness stuff, you were talking about it briefly before. How? Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how often? Because fitness is a big part of my life, so I was just curious. How often do you train and so forth?
You know, it's a funny thing. I was that like 2 a days, 5 days a week kind of girl, mostly just because it was really fun and I loved it. And then I got a little beat up, and then I got injured in a deadlifting competition. And I was like, I got to take a step back. So I started teaching yoga and added that to the practice, and then I was like, all right, now I'm doing this like 40 hours a week.
Wow.
Which is, I gotta tell you, it's one thing to go train at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's another thing to train someone else at 5 o'clock in the morning, because all that tired you feel when you're like, I just gotta get there. Your trainer is like, I gotta be there for you. And I loved it, but I did get kind of worn out. And so it was a funny thing earlier this year, because of all this, I actually got to, let's call it, retire from teaching my group classes. I held on to a couple of private clients because I just love them and I love hanging out with them, basically. But, and it was so funny because my first response was like, I don't have to be in the gym, so I'm not going to be there. And then after like, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 weeks of that, I was like, wait, no, now I like super miss it. Okay, I just needed a break. But now, for the first time in years, I'm in the position that other people are in all the time, where now I have to make time for it. It's not just where I am by default. And I was like, oh, that's what this feels like. Okay. So my living room is like a kettlebell here and a club bell there. My Indo board's over there. My yoga mat is over there. It's because I'm just constantly like grabbing things and like playing with them for a while and grabbing something else. So it's a very different kind of structure, but for the time being, it's working for me.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Yeah. My garage looks like your living room. I've got stuff everywhere. So, yeah.
I fantasize about having a garage that I can really like set up
permanently. Yep.
That would be the best. But yeah, it's a funny thing to go from, because at one point I was like competing at least once a month, and then competing against myself all the time. And then to kind of go, maybe I could just like take a step back for a second, and then how does it feel? Was also good. Yeah, it's funny though how the relationship to those things all change. There's a real like flux, like a give and a take from time to time.
Yeah. Yep. I know how you feel with the deadlift stuff. I hurt my back twice in 2 weeks trying to do deadlifts. And before that, I hadn't been injured for 15 months. So no more deadlifts. I'm going to try other things. So
I was in great shape, and I made a dumb choice on a bad day. And it's been 6 years, and every day I'm like, oh, I remember that day I made a dumb choice. I should not have done that. Yeah. Deadlifts are good. Don't do them bad.
Exactly. It's all about technique.
Yep.
But thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. So it's been awesome talking. It's been great.
Great.
Yeah.